Welcome to BIA, Becoming in Action, a space where reflection meets action, because becoming is a practice. Please welcome your host, Sandy Abair.
Hello, I am Sandy Abair, and welcome to the podcast, BIA, Becoming in Action. This is a space for people who are becoming, as leaders, as professionals, and as human beings. Because we never fully arrive in our lives, I created this podcast to support the ongoing process of becoming. Thank you to everyone who listened to episode 2. I particularly appreciated the listeners that reached out and shared their perspectives on effort and ease. 2 of these were really interesting to me, and I wanted to share them with you today. Ellie realized her perfectionism and her belief that if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing was impacting her when she took up a new hobby. She started sewing, and as she got better at sewing, she noticed she was becoming more reluctant to begin a project. She was afraid of making mistakes and wasting fabric, which was frustrating because sewing was really starting to bring her joy, but it also was starting to bring her stress. Luckily, she was able to talk this out with a friend and adopt a new belief: nothing is wasted as long as you learn something from it. That perspective has given her a lot of grace and ease with her sewing, and she is bringing that attitude to other areas of her life. Carrie shared that balance for her comes through daily habits. She has, quote, a surrendered way of thinking, reframing my thoughts so they are no longer aligned with old, negative, broken records from my past. It's intentional effort to become a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. Lasting change doesn't arrive dramatically. It grows quietly through small, consistent habits. Thank you to both these lovely ladies for sharing their perspective. Today's topic is focus versus observation. And no, not every week is going to be a this versus that. Just happened that I really wasn't done with the topic of effort and ease. Today's topic of focus and observation really dovetail off of that. I've been thinking about focus and observation all because of 20 tiny little ducks. This story starts with our friends Sarah and Jay. I met Sarah 32 years ago in my graduate program at Kansas State University. We clicked immediately, and we've stayed in touch and been friends through many stages of life. Although I don't get to see her very often because they live in Kansas City, we have still remained very close. We've been blessed with them coming to visit us the last 3 years in Ohio. The last visit was in October for my birthday. On the last day of their visit, I was watering my plants. I'm a recent plant mom. When we moved into our new home in March, I decided I needed plants in my life again. I had had a few plants in my early 20s, but once I had the boys, I decided I couldn't be responsible for keeping both plants and kids alive. The kids won out. All of my plants have names, and most of them have uplighting behind them to show them off. I talk to them, I water them, I rub mayonnaise on the leaves to keep them healthy and shiny. And when I went to water Stan, my spider plant, I immediately noticed a little tiny duck in the pot. At first, I was like, was this here when I bought the plant? I had only had the plant a couple weeks, so I thought, maybe it was in there when I purchased it. But then I realized, no, it couldn't have been. I'm pretty observant. I would have noticed this little duck. Then I realized I had been ducked, and I was delighted. My sister Tony had done this to my parents. She had hid little ducks in their house. And I was super excited that one of my friends did this for me. The night before, we had had a dinner party to celebrate my birthday, and I started trying to figure out who had done it when I realized it was Sarah. I was so glad that they were still here when I discovered that she did this so she could see my unfiltered excitement and how tickled I was that she did it. She let me know that she had 20 ducks for me to find. To be clear, I do not want anyone else to find these. I let all my friends and family know the rules of the game are if they see a duck, they should leave it in place and do not tell me about it. I love the surprise of finding them. I have not searched for them. I like to stumble on them organically as I'm going about living my life. And it feels like days that I'm having a hard time or need a little pick me up are days I find a duck. And I really have enjoyed stretching out the fun. My husband and my niece Maggie, on the other hand, can't believe that I didn't immediately scour the whole house to find them all. But here we are 3 months later, and I still have not found all of these ducks. There's 2 that I have not found, and in the last week I found 2. So it has been a very slow process. But there's 2 ducks that I found in particular that really got me thinking about focus versus observation. The first duck that made me think about it was the one I found in Stan. The second one was the one I found 2 weeks ago. I was watering Persephone when I discovered there was a little duck sitting on the fireplace stone. So the stones of our fireplace aren't all flush. Some of them stick out a little bit and it creates a little ledge. The duck was sitting there on that ledge, which was about 3 inches from one of Persephone's leaves. Being the loving and adoring plant mom I am, I check on all my plants for water twice a week. So I have gone up to Persephone and looked at her closely. I stuck my finger in the dirt to see if she needed water. I observed her leaves no less than 18 times since Sarah put that duck there, and I never noticed it. And I think I'm observant? Try again, Sandy. I have included photos of Stan and Persephone with their ducks circled on LinkedIn and Instagram so you can see the hidden ducks for yourself. To me, I just don't think they look like one is easier to find than the other. They seem pretty equally difficult to spot. I'd love your 2 cents if you think one would be easier versus the other. But got me asking myself, why was I able to spot Stan's duck right away, and it took me 3 months to spot Persephone's? And what I'm beginning to realize is I am just very dialed in and focused on whatever I'm doing when I'm executing on a task. When I'm watering my plants, I am watering my plants. That's it. I'm focused on the plant. That's why I found the duck in Stan's pot right away. It was right where my focus was. But 3 inches away from Persephone was not in my focus range when watering her. This definitely felt significant and caused for some self-reflection. And as I thought about it, it started to make sense. Focus goes along with effort. Focus is directed attention to get things done. It is asking what matters right now. You choose a target and you move toward it. It's all about being goal-driven, intentional, and forward-facing. I love all of those things. I'm an effort girl. So focus feels like effort. But this level of focus feels a little excessive. I didn't see a duck that was 3 inches away. I'm beginning to see how I overuse my focus, that I'm guilty of defaulting to focus without observation. I'm so busy rushing into action before I even understand what's going on. I'm not noticing patterns or emotions or assumptions that are at play. Observation is all about asking what's actually happening. It is open awareness. It is noticing without fixing. It's getting curious about what's happening. It is present, spacious, and non-judgmental. Observation feels like ease. Well, no wonder I'm not good at it. I am so not good at it, but somehow I thought I was. I want to believe that I know myself well and that I am self-aware. As I age, I'm realizing there's still parts of myself that I'm not aware of. Don't get me wrong, there can be a downside to observation, especially when there is no focus. You can get stuck in lots of reflection without much movement. Generally speaking, though, that's not my issue. I'm heavily weighted on the action side of the equation. I really feel like I need to work on remembering that before I decide where to go, I need to notice where I'm at. Instead of jumping in feet first, maybe sticking a toe in, seeing what the temperature of the water is, and then moving forward. Marilyn Vos Savant is an American author and columnist, and she is famous for having the highest IQ on record, IQ of 228. So when I saw this quote by her, I really took it to heart. She said, quote, "To acquire knowledge, one must study, but to acquire wisdom, one must observe." At this stage in my life, I'm looking to gain wisdom. In my 20s and even 30s, you're so busy with activity, building your career, building your family, that you forget about nurturing and developing yourself. And that's where I'm at now. Like, how do I take all of the experiences that I've had and continue to have and grow from them? So this got me curious about how I can become more observant. Unfortunately, I was not trained from a very young age to observe my surroundings by my cop father, like Sean Spencer in the TV series Psych. So I started digging in and researching the various techniques that I could implement to help me with observation. The first technique that I looked at was slowing down and taking time. Pretty straightforward and logical, that rushing leads to missing details. I have to remind myself to take the time to examine my surroundings more carefully. My oldest son, Grant, sat and watched me rushing around making Thanksgiving dinner and told me I needed to slow down and channel my sexy indifference. And I laughed so hard because I have zero sexy indifference. There is nothing there to channel. And while he's not wrong that I need to slow down, I couldn't connect with the notion of indifference. But I can connect with the idea that I need to care about what's happening around me just as much as what I am doing. I'm realizing that my multitasking is often standing in the way of that. It's really next to impossible to be observant when I'm listening to a book, cooking, and monitoring the laundry all at once. I need to chill out a bit on the multitasking and slow my roll. Mindfulness is also a great way to help you really become more observant. It's a focus on the immediate moment instead of letting your mind wander to the past or the future. It helps you to engage all your five senses and actively think about what you are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching to experience your environment fully. This is really a great reminder for me. I tend to replay conversations from the past and rethink things. And I also tend to plan out my next activities as I'm completing my current activity. So really just trying to stay in the moment and engaged in what I'm doing will be very helpful for me to start becoming more observant. The next technique is all around asking probing questions, constantly asking why or how about the things that are around you to uncover patterns and anomalies. I tend to take things at face value or fill in blanks based on my own assumptions. And I need to question and test my own assumptions more. I need to channel my inner Melissa. My friend Melissa is so good at this. When you start to tell Melissa a story, she always says, "I have so many questions." And she does. And I love it. It helps bring out other aspects of the story. It helps clarify what you were really thinking and feeling. I want to adopt that habit in my head and in my conversations more. Focusing on other people and their behaviors is another way that you can become more observant. Paying attention to body language, clothing, nonverbal cues in conversation are all ways that you can really just stay focused in the moment. This used to be really hard for me because I had a lot of anxiety and fear as I was communicating with people. I would worry about what they were thinking, if what I said landed okay, if I offended them, if I sounded dumb or being annoying. And working to let go of that anxiety and fear has opened up a lot more space for me to pay attention to other people. I've been working on that for the last few years. I continue to have work in this area. And the last technique that I would like to start using is called the 10 by 2 method. Ironically, this is very similar to what Sean Stad Henry had him do in the TV series Psych. What it involves is looking at an object or a scene for 30 seconds and then looking away and listing 10 things that you noticed. Then go back to that object or scene and look again for another 30 seconds and try to find 10 more things. This forces deeper observation. Side note, if you haven't watched the show Psych, definitely check it out. We watched it with our older boys when they were growing up, and it's just a really good family-oriented show, and we have a lot of good memories of watching it on Friday nights and eating popcorn. On the other side of this coin, focus can also be really difficult for many people. Particularly in today's world, our lives are filled with so many distractions. Bright lights and loud noises competing for our attention. Technology has rewired our brains to crave instant gratification through dopamine-driven feedback loops in the form of notifications and likes. It has reduced our capacity for sustained attention. Constant multitasking and information overload create digital brain fog and cause structural changes in the brain that hinder deeper concentration. There's a lot of different methods that you can use to help give yourself more focus. The first one that I really like is starting with your body and not your to-do list. If your nervous system is dysregulated, your brain is not going to cooperate. It's important to try to calm your body first and get regulated before digging into that task. What does that look like? It could just be taking 5 slow breaths. And they suggest a longer exhale really helps calm your nervous system. It could be standing up and stretching. It could be going for a 5-minute walk or just drinking some water. But a general rule of thumb that will serve you is to think regulate and then concentrate. Another way that you can help with your focus is to try to shrink the task. Overwhelm can really kill your focus. Instead of thinking, oh, I have to finish this project, try to say, I'm going to open up the document, I'm going to write 1 paragraph, or I'm going to work for a specified period of time. Momentum comes from the small wins. The last technique is creating a focus container. This is giving your attention boundaries, setting a timer of 10 to 25 minutes, putting your phone in another room, closing the extra tabs, writing down your distractions instead of acting on them. You're not removing the distractions forever, you're just removing them for now. The Pomodoro technique is a time management method developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s that boosts focus and prevents burnout by breaking work into 25-minute, distraction-free intervals called Pomodoros. And these are separated by 5-minute breaks. After 4 consecutive intervals, a longer 15 or 30-minute break can be taken. The Pomodoro technique is a specific focus container method that has proven to be very helpful for many, many people. Lack of focus isn't failure, it's information. Listen first and then act. Growth lives in the bridge between focus and observation. Observation provides awareness. Awareness provides clarity, and clarity allows for aligned action. When you observe first, focus becomes lighter, and that's where ease begins. There is a poll at the bottom of the episode description in Spotify where you can let me know if you struggle more with focus or observation. I'm curious to learn about how others balance these two somewhat opposing forces. You can leave comments in Spotify, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or feel free to direct message me. Thanks so much for listening to Becoming in Action. The name Bia comes from the Greek goddess of force and power. And to me, it's not the power over others, but the inner strength it takes to speak honestly, set boundaries, and move forward with intention. Becoming, in action, focuses on the fact that growth requires reflection and movement. Awareness without action doesn't change anything, and action without awareness isn't sustainable. Becoming really is a practice. This isn't about perfection or hustle. It's about pausing to have honest reflection and thoughtful growth. If this sounds like a journey you're interested in going on with me, please hit follow in Spotify. Follow me on Instagram with Bia Personal Coaching, or check out my website, biapersonalcoaching.com. And if you know someone who's in a season of becoming, please share with them. Thank you, and see you next time.